stop or give it up. Killing infidels, always got it planned. Underhand, give a lot of yell. My, whoa! My Sharia. My Sharia. My Sharia.
All right, when there's bouncing, jiggling Sharia-compliant ladies on, it gotta be only one thing, ladies and gentlemen. It's Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday, the 26th of June, 2015. Hi, everybody. How you guys doing today?
Doing good. Doing good.
How about all you Americans out there? How about yesterday's show where we showed you a third of the Islamic population of the United States of America wants to kill you on Jumping Juma Freaky Friday,
yes,
or at least will support others that do it.
Very disappointing, Tom. Very disappointing. I thought a much higher number would believe in Sharia being...
you want higher numbers?
I believe that there should be higher numbers of people that want Sharia law to be supreme to the U.S. Constitution. For Muslims to only be approximately half is very disappointing. That means almost half of U.S. Muslims are not really Muslims.
That's a possibility, but you know what? The Muslims overseas don't screw around, because during the month of Ramadan, we have here on WSBR Radio Ramadon Bombathon 2015, and word,
numbers
are these boys
hopping.
kicking
Jihad
butt? Woo!
Woo!
Man.
Yeah, man, they're off to a great
Mark,
start.
give us the update this week on Ramadan Bombathon.
Well, we got the Ramadan Bombathon numbers coming up for you right here, and they are wrong one. There we go. Wrong. Ramadan Bombathon scorecard 2015. Terror attacks 77.
77. Now we're starting on the 17th. We're on the 25th. 8 days in, 26, 9 days into
about
it.
10 a day approximately.
So about 8, 9, 10.
But
a
it
day.
also says not all attacks are immediately posted on the Religion of Peace website. So there could be a little bit of a backlog. So please don't tell. Okay. Don't assume that there are not more.
Terror attacks, suicide bombing, 16. Dead bodies, 564, and 581 wounded. What about that? Wow, those look like good numbers for you guys.
Well, what is very good compared to years past, you will see the 564 on the dead bodies and the 581 on the wounded are almost the same. In years past, you have seen that the wounded exceed the dead by 2 to 1, 3 to 1. So here it is even. You see that we have become much more lethal over time. We have become more efficient in our killings. And I'm just very, very happy to see the performance.
Well, you got ISIS now, rocking and rolling.
ISIS is rocking and rolling. Islamic State.
And
hey, on WSBR Radio right now, 9 minutes after another beautiful Friday afternoon in Florida. Welcome to our show. I'm your host, Tom Trento. Name of the show, Enemies of the State. And let me tell you, people blowing up the Middle East and Africa and different parts of Asia, the Islamic jihadis doing this. Several websites keep track of the public destruction by Islam during Ramadan, which is the holy month where the angel Gabriel gave to Muhammad through dreams and other apparitional methodologies the Quran. And all Muslims worldwide are supposed to be friendly and peace-loving, and in an effort to join themselves more closely with Allah, to fast all day long. You've been fasting, Abdullah?
Tom, I've been fasting all
an Italian
day, but
sub sandwich right by your where you're sitting.
That belongs to one of your kuffar employees. That sandwich is not mine. I would not be caught dead eating during daylight hours.
Yeah.
We've been going to mosque every night for festivities.
And it's packed over there,
It
too.
has been packed. I am so happy to see how packed the mosque is.
Yeah, I mean, the parking lot is like over. I mean, there's
overflow.
Overflow.
So during Ramadan, ladies and gentlemen, on WSBR Radio, 7:40 a.m. on your dial, or if you're a night owl, go to Studio B at redstate.com.
Red State Talk Radio.
RedStateTalkRadio.com. At midnight, Studio B, our show plays. You can hear it there. Or you can go anytime to theunitedwest.org and watch it.
It is very nice to watch the show.
Yeah. But, rock and roll, man, and put in your earbuds, do whatever. But the point we're making on Jumping Juma, Freaky Friday, and all of this nonsense always has a point, is that some Muslims, and in this country about a third, about 1 million, believe that you can use violence to advance Islam because they are devout Muslims, devotedly following
How
the
can you say a
Islamic
third
doctrine. And we just happen to have the rundown, and so far about 1,000 either maimed, wounded, or dead worldwide. Usually that goes up pretty high. I mean, tens of thousands. Little
There was a story I see from. It was I watch it on another one of these. It's called Jihad Watch. I try to I look for good reading, and so I go to Jihad Watch, and lo and behold, it belongs to your friend Robert Spencer, an
Yes,
Islamophobe. I am looking for to watch Jihad Watch. I figure I go and I watch the Jihad, but unfortunately, it is one of the biggest Islamophobes on this planet, with yourself, of course. But I see this. Story, and it's a Islamic State calls for jihad and martyrdom during Ramadan.
So we don't make this stuff up. We're just not Islamophobes who hate Muslims. That's the charge against us. And we come up with this crazy stuff. Let's see that article you had up there. Let's see what that says, if you can. Islamic State calls for jihad, martyrdom during Ramadan. So the Islamic State, which is indeed a state and it's Islamic, though we're going to go to Boston in a couple of minutes, and in Boston, where the Islamic bombers used Islam to bomb people 2 years ago during the Boston Marathon.
They're not Muslim, Tom.
The Boston authorities, particularly the legal authorities with their astute legal minds, have determined something different. We're going to show you that. But out in the Middle East, certainly, the Islamic State is calling for increased killing during Ramadan. Imam Abdullah, how do you have increased killing during the holiest time for Muslims? How do you rationalize all of that?
Very simple, Tom. It is called purification. Purification. Very simple.
Okay.
We are trying to get rid of the heretic, filthy Shia.
Now, these Islamic State guys wouldn't want to bother us, would they?
Tom, that is so silly. Of course they would.
Well,
They
I have a
go
surprise
after
for
your
them.
friend, Pamela Geller. Your good friend. They
true.
try to kill her. You were even there when it happened the first time.
Well, within hand reach, I have a surprise for anybody that tries to mess with us. I have a new. This is from.
Oh, no, don't press that button.
I'm going to do it.
No, because you're gonna.
This is from a foreign country.
No, you're gonna squeal this.
This is from a foreign. No, not that button. Not my cyber warfare button. I have
Do you have a
different one.
dirty bomb?
No, from another country, undisclosed country. We're beta testing a weapon for them. I have it right here. You ready?
Go ahead. Ah! A laser.
It's a laser. I will laser. Look at that.
Oh wow.
It's actually a flashlight, but it looks kind of cool, doesn't it?
It looks like a lightsaber on the
Yeah,
TV.
Mess up my green. Wait a minute, mess up my green screen now.
It's a walkie-talkie.
Boys and her toys.
It's a walkie-talkie. This button, that's the button you don't want to
Yeah, it's the one. I don't want your button.
With a flashlight on it. We have all kinds of weapons up here.
Oh.
We got this guy standing guard.
But Imam
All right.
Abdullah, we do have a little update story for you. I
What do we have?
didn't know you guys are reaching out to transsexuals and gays, over there, and they're actually flocking.
Who is? They don't.
Yeah,
No, these people were stupid. Do you have a transsexual man and his or her, depending how you view it, his name was Victor and now goes by Victoria, but he is transsexual, and his gay friend, his homosexual friend, have decided to go join the Islamic State. These people are stupid.
Oh, that's a brilliant move. So
Just as
Hey.
stupid. This is another thing.
Hey,
Can
you
I
know
tell
what?
you?
If they're terrorists, they want to go join a terrorist organization. Let them go. Is what I say.
This is what is so funny.
I don't want to
Is
be
Abu Bakr
homophobic or
al-Baghdadi
transgender phobic or anything like that. Guys, just go. If you want to be jihadis, go be jihadis.
is Abu
Have a good
Bakr
time.
al-Baghdadi the caliph, the successor? Caliph means successor. The successor to Muhammad, is he an equal opportunity jihadi, Muhammad?
Of course, he will kill Shia, Christian, Jew, homosexual, transsexual.
No, but will he bring homosexuals into the battlefield to fight against the Jews and Christians?
No. Homosexuality is a sin.
Somebody better tell those.
But what
They
is
will
in-
kill these people.
what is interesting about this story is what it says at the bottom. Because this guy who's the transgender, or I don't know which one, he's either the gay or the
It doesn't
transgender.
matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter, guy. He said that ISIS has been staging a non-stop campaign online to recruit new fighters, and that is true. They have been staging
we know that for a fact.
to recruit new fighters from those who feel out of place, but added it was unlikely they had transsexual, homosexual mind when making that appeal. The pair claimed they had suffered persecution and abuse from family and locals at the home in Kamchatka region in northern Russia. They hoped they would be welcome when they went to Syria, watching an ISIS recruitment video online.
They will be thrown from the highest of buildings.
I got one bit of advice for them. Take this with you guys, and you'll be
Again,
okay.
this is so funny. What I will say, you know me, Tom, I am honest with you and your
Yes,
listeners.
you are. That's
And
why we
what is so
allow
funny-
you here every Friday.
What is so funny is your college campuses. You have these crazy gay people, the LGBTQ, whatever
these-
they are, have joined with my people. This
I
is so
know.
funny.
I know.
They should look at when we have the power in the Middle East. You see what happens. We kill all of them.
They throw
Yet
off
they want to
buildings.
be our friends on the college campus.
Campus gays may be playing you guys, and they may be, they know the powers they have to bring people over. Who knows? But anyway, this Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday, we bring you these kind of offbeat, realistic stories. Ramadan Bombathon is killing a mass destruction going on in the Middle East. Bashar al-Assad is in serious trouble. Hezbollah, Iran is propping him up. And as we know, this is part 5 of our 5-part series, Apocalyptic. What does the word apocalyptic mean?
The end of times, yes.
Yeah, essentially when it all gets crazy at the end, the apocalypse, the big battle, the last fight at the end of the
Oh,
world.
you mean when we polish off all you Christians?
Yeah. Apocalyptic Iran. We've been going through it, and we're going to have a special guest in just a couple of minutes. Dr. Tim Furnish will be with us. He's an expert on Iranian thinking, on the Mahdi. He's probably one of the foremost experts who have studied the Mahdi, and he will be with us shortly. But we want to take you to Boston, Massachusetts first, to one of the most
Insane comments
well,
I've heard.
You could say one of the most, if you're being facetious, one of the most eloquent explanations I've ever heard of a mass killer effort, or the most inartful way to explain reality.
Now,
but in any event, Mark, take us to Boston, please.
Well, this is the lead attorney who prosecuted.
The AG, isn't it Attorney General?
Yeah, that prosecuted the Sarnoff brothers. He
did not
Brother.
have to prosecute
Yeah,
the
the
dead
other
one.
one was
The other one
dead.
prosecuted himself.
Right. And she is actually telling. Also, this is also the judge's opinion inside the courtroom too, by the way. And listen to this, just insane.
So now, what happened
comment.
yesterday, so everyone understands it, 19 minutes after, the Yokar Sonov, he was found guilty a month or so ago, and he was going to be sentenced to death. He is sentenced to death. Well, yesterday was the formal sentencing, where they go through
2 days
all the
ago, it is
paperwork.
Friday.
Friday. What's today? Friday? Yesterday was
Friday.
Thursday. Yesterday was the formal thing. wasn't it?
He was sentenced
Wednesday.
at Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay. That's right. I'm getting confused on these days. On Wednesday of this week, 2 days ago, he was formally sentenced. They got to go through a bunch of paperwork before they can formally do that. And they gave him an opportunity to speak in the courtroom, and he apologized to the people, and he prayed to Allah, all of this. Then afterwards, this legal team that prosecuted him had a press conference. We're taking you now to the press conference.
There was nothing, as you heard Judge O'Toole say in the courtroom, there was nothing about this crime that was Islam associated. And so that's what I was struck by more.
Here's the question. It says, from the reporter, it's a little hard to hear. How can you say there was nothing religious that motivated this crime with all the references to Allah, to Muhammad, to the Quran that was made by him and his mother throughout the entire deal? That's the question.
That was the question by the reporter.
This is-
There was nothing religious motivating this crime, given all of the references to Allah, to Muhammad, to the Quran. It's been made by him and his brother throughout this entire ordeal.
That is a skewed view of the religion of Islam. That is not what Islam
All right,
is all
stop
about.
the
And
presses.
so when
Hold on, it gets better.
individuals utilize that, it is a radicalized view of that ideology. It's a radical ideology which really isn't at the heart of what is truly a peaceful and loving religion.
You don't even have to be a logician to go, what the hell is she talking
What
about?
the heck is she talking about?
First of all, the mother and the father, remember, were on record, and there were writings, there was all kinds of evidence. This is stupid on its face, but there was all kind of evidence from the Sarnov brothers that indeed this was a holy war, religious jihad, Islamic jihad attack, and they rooted it in the doctrine, in the scripture of Islam.
How about all the writing inside the boat he was hiding?
I mean,
I know.
this is on its face, it's comical, but I don't understand why she's saying that. Who is she defending? What is she
Well,
trying
the
to
judge actually said that in the trial. He said this is not religiously motivated, and she's just parroting what the judge said. And it's amazing on its face that in a terror trial in Boston, a terror attack, everybody is calling it a terrorist attack. Not even the left is trying to defend this as not a terrorist attack.
Was it a Jewish terror attack?
Of course not.
Christian terror attack?
No.
Baha'i terror attack?
No.
No.
The IRA, the Islamic Republic attack. I'm not.
No.
The Irish
Irish.
Republic Army. That
No.
wasn't them.
No.
Who was it?
It was my people.
An Islamic terror attack,
Yes.
but had nothing to do.
I wish they would give us our credit where credit is due. I do not.
Does
well,
President Obama still maintain that the Islamic State is not Islamic and it is not a state?
Yes.
Good. This is the sanity we bring you on Jumpin' Juma Freaky Friday. But moving on to part 5 of our 5-part series, Apocalyptic Iran. Monday, Dr. Matthew Koenig from Georgetown, he laid out the fact that, and he worked for the Obama administration as one of the advisors on all of this. He said, after 13 years, we're getting a bad deal, Tom. I know it. It's going to be bad. I hope it isn't, but it's going to be bad. It's going to lead to more instability in the Middle East. Tuesday, Dr. Peter Pry, expert on the EMP's electromagnetic pulse capability, and said Iran possesses this and could possibly use it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday and Thursday.
We're having problems. We just had a problem with the with the Skype.
The who?
With the Skype. We just had a problem
Okay.
with the Skype. It just went completely crazy.
I can do 2 things at once.
There it is.
Okay,
Okay,
now
now
we're
it's
back.
back. Now
That's
it's
cool.
back. Now it's
I'm
back.
good.
It just went really weird.
All right, on Wednesday and Thursday, the boys here in the studio brought you a couple of elements of the Iranian situation. We looked at 9 requirements minimally that will be essential to determine whether or not the deal is good or bad. Maybe we'll go over these in a bit. We also said this thing's most likely going to be postponed. We brought you Frank Gaffney yesterday through a report on Fox saying it's a very, very bad deal. It's paving the way to nuclear armament and weaponry for Iran. All of that. One of the serious concerns, and this falls in the existential category, is that the mindset of the Iranians, the mullahs, the ayatollahs, is apocalyptic. The mindset is to either bring about destruction for destruction's sake, to destroy Israel simply to destroy Israel, or to participate in an eschatological event, an end times event, and get this weaponry in order to hasten, and this is not an absurd view by any means, I mean, serious people that hold this, to hasten the coming of their Messiah, the Mahdi. Well, we decided to go find somebody that knows something about the Mahdi, about the Islamic Messiah, and Dr. Tim Furnish is one of the world's experts on the Mahdi. That's why his website is Mahdi, M-A-H-D-I, MahdiWatch.org. And Dr. Furnish, welcome to Enemies of the State. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Tom. Good to be on.
Good to see you. We have communicated in the past, and we have many friends, but we never, I don't think we have, you've never been on our show before, I don't believe.
I have not.
But we're glad you're here. And look, we're trying to alert and warn Americans, Westerners, Israelis, as to the dangers of Iran. Let me take a moment for you to establish your credibility. We have the luxury here of taking time with our subject matter experts so that our audience gets to know them, and we'll bring you back. But take a moment or two and tell people who you are, how you got involved in crazy work of following a Mahdi around, and what your hopes and aspirations are right now.
Yeah.
And the Mahdi is sending
green waves at you.
Green waves on you. But let's go ahead, because we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. All right.
The color of the Mahdi is green, so I guess it's
There you go.
appropriate.
This is weird.
I've never had this happen before. Go ahead.
I saw this green when I was in Iran in 2008 in John Quran Mosque. Maybe it's come back to haunt me. Thank you for that kind introduction, Tom. I'm one of about 6 or 8 Americans that have studied this topic formally. I just got interested after I was an Arabic linguist in the Army. I got out of the Army, went to graduate school at Ohio State, got interested in specifically the Sudanese Mahdi, if you remember the movie Cartoon with Charlton Heston, and got interested in Mahdism as sort of a uber jihadist movement, and then I just went on to study it and write my doctoral dissertation and my first book on it.
All right, now you were in the Army. What years were you in the Army?
I was enlisted 83 to 89.
And what was your job? What were you doing then?
I was what they used to call 97 Echo, interrogator, Arabic interrogator.
You speak Arabic, obviously.
It's Kalamanavia.
How'd you come about learning to speak Arabic?
Defense Language Institute, Monterey.
Oh, really?
Right.
Oh, so you went to school to learn it. Is it a hard language to learn?
I didn't find it as hard as some people made it out to be. It's supposedly one of the hardest, along with Korean, Japanese, and Chinese. But I didn't think it was that hard because it's an alphabetical system, not an ideographic system. So I didn't find it that hard.
Okay, so when you became an interrogator during those years, what was going on in those years that necessitated interrogating Arabic-speaking people?
Well, I think it was my second month at DLI in Arabic was when the Marine barracks was blowing up in Beirut, wasn't it? So, we had all that in the 80s. I mean, yes, it got a lot more intense in the 90s, of course, and then this millennium, but it was a lot of the stuff that, we thought was really, really serious at the time, and now it sort of looks like small potatoes, doesn't it?
All right, now back then, yeah, it does. Back in the late 80s, 83 was Beirut. Your methods of interrogation, were they enhanced methods of interrogation, or were they like, hey buddy, how you doing, or were they a whole host of things?
Well, it was a whole host of things, but it was mainly, the psychological games, good cop, bad cop, and pride and ego up, pride and ego down, all those sort of little psychological ploys. Not nearly the serious stuff I had to do later after the course of that.
Now, where were you on September 11th, 2001, when the buildings got hit, and what did you think when you saw that?
Oh, I was preparing to go teach a world history class at the college I taught at here in the Atlanta area. And after the first plane hit, I thought, like a lot of people, perhaps it could be an accident. After the second plane hit, I thought to myself, I kid you not, that's bin Laden. I had recently written an article, I believe a few months earlier, for the Encyclopedia of Fundamentalist Movements, and I specifically did Al-Qaeda. So this guy was kind of on my radar screen. So that was who I thought of immediately, because he had been one of the few persons, the terrorists, who threatened to go after what they call the far enemy, not the near enemy. And I thought it's likely that guy.
Yeah, and now how did your life change in a dramatic way after 9/11?
Well, no, I continued to teach college for a while, but then a few years ago, 2008, 2009, I got hooked up with some friends, specifically a local friend here who used to be Special Forces 05, and got me some connections with Special Operations Command and some other people in the military. So for the last 6 years, on and off, I have served as a sort of intermittent consultant to various military entities on issues related to the Islamic world.
And you're consulting on the theological and eschatological elements, or simply on your background of Islam through your Arabic studies?
Both. like for instance, the Islamic ideology behind groups like Boko Haram and the Taliban and stuff that they're loath to discuss in this administration high levels, but that they probably about '06 level and below people are still all too well aware of.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was fascinating background. Now, you're coming from what discipline? Jewish, Christian, what?
I'm Christian personally.
You're a Christian. All right. Let's discuss the Mahdi. Now, one of the confusing issues, and we have a fairly large radio audience, and then internet TV and iHeartRadio goes out all over the place. And we deal with national security issues, and we deal with some of the theology and end times considerations, viewpoints of the other side, Islamic State. But one of the confusing elements is this Mahdi. You've just
It's something on the Skype end that we can't control.
yeah, that's a Skype issue. But the Mahdi issue, tell us who the Mahdi is, and then tell us how the Shia and the Sunni kind of both gravitate to a different or a similar Mahdi.
The Mahdi in Arabic is from the root hada'a, which means to guide or be rightly guided by Allah. So the Mahdi is the one who is rightly guided. It's a belief that developed early on in Islam. It is shared. A lot of people don't realize this. It is shared by both Sunnis and Shia, particularly the Twelver Shia, although there are other groups of Shia that have slightly different views of him. And he is a messianic figure, the primary messianic figure in Islam, along with, of course, Jesus, because in Islam, according to both the Quran and the Hadiths, the sayings attributed to Muhammad, Jesus will return at the end of time, or I should say before the end of time, with the Mahdi, to make the whole world Muslim. The difference for the Sunni and the Shia is really this, because in both cases, he will make the world Muslim, either by conquest or a combination of conquest and sort of persuasion. For the Sunnis, the Mahdi, the true Mahdi, has not been here yet. He will emerge, I guess the best way to put it is he will emerge onto the stage of history as sort of a global warlord who will be acknowledged at some point as the Mahdi. So, for instance, there have been Sunni leaders in the past who people have suspected were the Mahdi. Salahuddin, for instance, who retook Jerusalem from the Crusaders. And more recently, there were people that thought bin Laden might be the Mahdi, things like that. For the Twelver Shia.
Wait, hang on one second, Tim.
Yes.
We're at 33 minutes after the hour. Tom Trento, your host, Enemies of the State, WSBR Radio, 740 on your dial, folks, or you can watch us on theunitedwest.org, teapartycommunity.com, or for you late night owls, midnight East Coast time, redstatetalkradio.com. You can check us out there. Tim, you said that some of the Sunni, and the Sunni folks is the largest element of Islam, 85% of the 1.3 billion. They thought bin Laden may be the Mahdi. Now, Christians, we believe Jesus is the Messiah. We know the characteristics of Jesus. We await his second return. What are the characteristics of the Messiah, of the Mahdi, that made people believe that bin Laden could possibly be the Mahdi?
Well, yeah, that's a very good question, Tom. I'm glad you said that. I probably didn't clarify that. The Mahdi is nowhere mentioned in the Quran. The only place where there are descriptions of him are in these hadiths, which are these alleged sayings of Muhammad. And the descriptions in some ways are sort of vague. They're physical descriptions. He will resemble the Prophet Muhammad in some ways, same kind of nose, mole on his cheek, receding hairline, things like that. Most of the descriptions of the Mahdi are what he will do. He will basically lead Muslims to, as I said earlier, take over the world either peacefully or violently or a combination. He will redistribute wealth. There are a number of hadiths that speak of him as being sort of almost a global Robin Hood figure. So the descriptions are sufficiently vague so that in the Sunni world, and I talk about that in my book and in various places on my website and other writings, there have been a number of men, quite a large number of men throughout history, who have claimed to be the Sunni Mahdi, just sort of exploiting the sort of vagueness of these hadiths. And what it basically boiled down to, sort of like what's happened with the role of the caliph in Islam, the successor to Muhammad's political leader of the Islamic community. It became basically a matter of, if you were sufficiently powerful enough and said that you stood up for Islam, you could really, in many places, in many times in history, claim to be the caliph. And that has sort of become the case with the Mahdi. One complicating figure with the Mahdi is that there's also another strong tradition of Islam, that a figure called the Mujaddid, the renewer, who will come every 100 years. And what you tend to get in Islamic history is guys claiming to be the Mahdi in the Sunni world popping up every century or so. And this is, for instance, is one of the major reasons why you remember the 1979 movement in Saudi Arabia, the occupation of the Great Mosque of Mecca, the attempt to overthrow the Saudi government, led by Jahim al-Tabi, who claimed that his brother-in-law was the Mahdi. This was the year 1400 of the Islamic calendar. So the year 1500 of the Islamic calendar, by the way, will be 2076. So I'm not sure I'll make it that far, but my kids or grandkids might have to worry about that.
Yeah. Now, is there any current thinking that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the caliph of the Islamic State, could be the Mahdi?
Now, I have not seen any indication of that. ISIS, as I'm sure you know, and a lot of people commented on, just not myself, but Claire Lopez, Claire and other people commented on this. If you read Dabiq magazines, which are the magazines that ISIS puts out, particularly the first 5, there are very strong eschatological references in all of them. They talk about the coming of the Mahdi. They talk about the great battle at the site of Dabiq in Syria, which will be the sort of Armageddon-like battle between them and the Christian forces, which for them is us. But I have not seen any passage or any statement anywhere where anyone has dared to speculate that al-Baghdadi might be the Mahdi. Although, in the future, that would not surprise me.
Okay, so here's what we have, folks, at 37 minutes after. Dr. Tim Furnish is with us, an expert on the Mahdi. And why this is important is there's a belief by many people, and Benjamin Netanyahu being one of them, Prime Minister of Israel, that if Iran gets a bomb, their eschatological and theological belief system, which includes the return of the Mahdi, could enhance their use of the bomb, because there's a possibility that bringing about this global chaos hastens the return of the Mahdi, which the Iranians, the Persians want. Now, but I'm walking through this somewhat slowly, so you're able to give a good lesson, Tim, to our very astute listeners and viewers. So far, we're up to 2015, and we have 2 Mahdis, essentially, or we have one. Is the Shia Mahdi and the Sunni Mahdi the same Mahdi from each discipline?
Actually, no. The Shia, particularly the Twelver Shia, keep in mind there are various kinds of Shia. The Twelver Shia of Iran and Iraq are the largest. They believe that the Mahdi was a real historical figure who disappeared, unlike the Sunnis. They believe that Muhammad this gets a little complex, I'll try to boil it down, cliff notes. Muhammad didn't have any male sons. The closest male relative that he had was his son-in-law, who was also his cousin, Ali, who married one of Muhammad's daughters. Muhammad does have 2 male grandsons, Hassan and Hussein, and then they had sons and progeny and so on and so forth. The Shia, for some reason in the early Islamic community, developed this idea, the Shiite Ali, the faction of Ali, that there had to be a dynastic principle in Islam. The bloodline of Muhammad was special. So therefore it had to pass through the males, it being 7th century Arabia, of course. And it then passed through Muhammad's grandsons and their male relatives. And if you count 12, there were 12 what they call imams, according to the 12 or Shia. The last one was a kid named Muhammad also, who they called Muhammad al-Mahdi, who disappeared in the 9th century. Now, as a historian and a Christian, I think this kid just probably died. But they couldn't say that because then their line of, their branch of the Islamic faith would die out. So they came up with this sort of convoluted description where he went into what's called in Arabic ghaiba, occultation, eclipse. It's the same word they use for the moon being eclipsed. And he's in some sort of parallel dimension, hidden by Allah, and he will come back, this same kid who disappeared in 873 AD, disappeared, will come back at the end of time, will be sent back by Allah as the 12th Imam, the Mahdi. So for the Shia, he's already been here, he comes back. For the Sunni, the Mahdi hasn't been here yet.
Okay, so hang on one second. All right, for our viewers and listeners, the 2 different groups, the Shia and Sunni, have a different view. For the Sunnis, it's the first appearance of the Mahdi coming back, and they're trying to do that. We've talked to Anjem Chowdhury and others. They want to they actually have laid out their scriptures and said in Dabik, in the city in northwestern Syria, there needs to be a certain number of crusader armies in order for the Mahdi to come back. And they're trying to entice more countries to come and fight them in Syria, and they'll be losing initially when the Mahdi comes. So Anjem Chowdhury laid out that Sunni eschatological view. On the Shia side, he was already here in 873 or so, and then he disappeared. Is this the occultation? What is that term, occultation?
Occultation, right, yes.
That's the disappearance of him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's now shift to the current day Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Everybody knows that nut job who used to be the president of Iran, stood in the United Nations a few years ago and said he felt the power of the Mahdi on him. Just recently was talking about the Mahdi. Get us up to speed on Ahmadinejad and the 12er Ayatollahs now and what their thinking is.
I would say this, Tom, just as preface, Ahmadinejad in this regard is not a nut job. His beliefs about the Mahdi are mainstream in Iran. The Islamic Republic of Iran is predicated on the idea, if you read the Constitution, that the government only exists until such time as the 12th Imam comes back, when he takes over the reign. So, a lot of the media reports him as being an extremist. I mean, he may be a nut job in other ways, I'll grant you.
Right.
But he's not extremist in this regard. I mean, he's no more extremist than expecting the 12th Imam to come than, those of us that say the Apostles' Creed on Sunday aren't expecting Jesus to come back. Of course, the difference is that no one successfully in history really has ever claimed to be Jesus. However, a lot of men have claimed to be, at least temporarily successfully, the Mahdi, maybe not the 12th Imam. But Tom, I do have to say, I take issue. This is where, I'm a staunch conservative. I served in the 101st. I once voted Democrat, never did it again. I learned my lesson. I take issue with some of my conservative friends on this point, and people who I greatly respect, like I said, like Claire Lopez and some other people, Andrew Boston, for instance, a man I greatly respect, done a lot of good research for a non-specialist. My study of Iranian 12er Shia eschatology, of Iranian history, and of the Islamic Republic's politics do not support the idea that Iran wants to, as the term that what you were referring to earlier is called hotwiring the apocalypse, which is a wonderful phrase. It was developed by Reuben Paz, who's a just recently deceased Israeli researcher. There are groups like ISIS, and you're exactly right, they're one of them. They want to hotwire the apocalypse. They are beheading people and finding even more heinous ways to kill, particularly Christians right now, because I think they truly are trying to goad us into invading, because they think that, according to the Hadiths, they will win the Battle of Dabik. And as an aside, I think that if we dropped about 3 Ranger battalions in there, we could persuade them of that stupid idea. But that's not going to happen in this administration. However, I do not think that under 12er Shia theology that this is an operative principle in Iran. The Iranians, if you take their ideas at face value, the Ayatollahs would lose their power most likely if somebody claimed to be the Mahdi and showed up. But, of course, again, as a Christian, as an analyst, I don't think it's a true belief anyway, but this is something they believe, so I have to take it seriously in terms of analysis. I think if you look at what the Iranians have been saying, if you look at the teachings of 12er Shiism, you can't do anything to hasten the coming of the Mahdi, the 12th Imam. It will happen on Allah's timetable. There is nothing humans can do to advance it in terms of, I found nothing in the writings of Ali or any of the other Imams of the 12ers, which they also count as hadith in addition to what Muhammad says, allegedly said. I found nothing in those writings that say that if you bring vast destruction on someone, it will cause the coming of the Mahdi. It's actually the other way around. They believe that when some of them, not all of them, but some of the Ayatollahs, and probably some of the people of Iran, believe that when the Mahdi comes, the 12th Imam, he will then get rid of Israel, for instance. But they don't do it, and they're trying to do it would not cause the coming of the 12th Imam. And I simply, this has become very entrenched, not just in the GOP, but in evangelical circles in the United States. And I think there's a lot of cross-pollination on this issue, and I just think the issue is profoundly inaccurate. And let me hasten to say, Tom, after that, I have no illusions about the Iranian regime.
Right, of
It's an unpleasant regime. They torture. They've been behind the killings of Americans. I think they want Israel to disappear. But I do not think that we need to base U.S. policy on an idea that I don't think accords with their theology. It is not, to put it another way, I think we need to differentiate between apocalyptic and eschatological. In America, we tend to use them interchangeably. And in a real sense, that's what they originally were. They were interchangeable. The apocalypse of St. John the Divine, the book of Revelation, means the unveiling. It doesn't mean mushroom clouds. But I think for most Americans, apocalyptic has come to mean mushroom clouds or something along those lines. I don't think that's what Iran wants. I think what Iran wants is nuclear weapons, clearly, and they're lying through their teeth if they say they don't. They clearly want nuclear weapons because they saw what happened with North Korea. North Korea got nuclear weapons, and now no one will touch them. They want regime insurance. They don't want them to use on the Israelis because that would be profoundly stupid. Are they eschatological? Yes. They see a sort of global Manichaean battle, mainly between Islam and Christianity. They see themselves as being in the vanguard of it. They want to try to set up the Islamic State. They've said this as sort of the Mahdist state in microcosm, but I don't think any of that supports the idea that they want to use a nuclear weapon on Tel Aviv because, among other things, they aren't stupid.
Well, they're not stupid in for what reasons? What would happen if they did that?
20 minutes later, Iran would be a smoking radioactive ruin because the Israelis have far more nuclear weapons than the Iranians.
Yeah, I've heard various bits of information that in playing out that global eschatological battle, that Iran was willing to, they got 85 million people or so, willing to abandon 50%, 60%, as long as they wiped out the Jews. So in that exchange, they still win because there are no more Jews, but there's 40 million Iranians. But you're saying that you think the Israelis, if they have nuclear weapons and launched everything, it'd be more destructive than that?
Oh, I think so. And plus, the Iranians, the Ayatollahs, do not, the ones that sincerely believe in the coming of the 12th Imam, and many of them do, and if there are ones that don't, they have enough sense to keep it to themselves. By the way, I think that's the only major difference between Rouhani and Ahmadinejad. Ahmadinejad would just openly speak what he was thinking. Rouhani is a little smoother. I don't think his beliefs differ hardly at all from Ahmadinejad. So, but I think that the Iranians are not willing to, look, these guys wear really nice watches, even better than al-Baghdadi's watch, I'll bet you. They drive Rolls Royces. They all have 3 or 4 wives, and they're all really well off. They don't want to risk that. And, there may be a few that are suicidally apocalyptic, but I don't think that they run the country.
Yeah, often it comes down to that when these guys reach this level of power, the opulence comes in, and then the theology kind of gives way to, I like the air conditioning and the Rolls on a hot day in Tehran. It's as simple as that many times. As we are getting close to this date, the 30th of June, and the end of the negotiations, though we've said here it's really going to continue probably for a few more days, but there is that 10-day or so deadline Congress has given. So it's got to be a week or two afterwards for the final decision. And for our viewers watching at 15 minutes after, Dr. Furnish here keeps turning green and brown and green and brown. That's the Iranians are hacking his Skype line or something. Who knows what?
I love the color green.
You love, we have Imam Abdullah in here. You love the color green, don't you?
I see before he said that Ahmadinejad might be crazy in one sense or the other.
I said that.
Yes. Well, he said that he might be crazy.
But not on the Mahdi
not
stuff.
Not on the 12th thing, but I want to know if he see this article that just come out. Where it says Iranian ex-president, the U.S. is trying to arrest the Muslim Messiah, the one that disappeared in the 10th century. Please do explain.
Yes, I saw that. And let me tell you that I actually am working on 2 book manuscripts. I'm trying to get 2 books published this year, one specifically on Islamic eschatology. And some of it is selections from some old blog posts I've done. Ahmadinejad said the same thing, and so did Muqtada al-Sadr, the head of Jaish al-Mahdi in Iraq. He said the same thing in 2007 and 2008. So there is nothing new under the sun when it comes to Ahmadinejad.
What is he? I don't understand. I didn't see the article. Who's he trying? How's he arresting?
It said that originally they had said that we invaded Iraq to try to capture the Mahdi because he knew he was going to manifest.
Oh.
And I guess Ahmadinejad has repeated that again. Yes, I'm never quite sure how a Methodist President Bush knew that the Mahdi was going to manifest, but there you go.
Yeah, maybe he's got the CIA and the NSA and all of that. In one sense, Tim, 51 minutes after, in terms of the lethality and the threat that Iran is to the region, for sure, to the world's oil supplies, to the exportation of nuclear capability, the issue of the Mahdi is secondary because they're still they're still bad actors in a very dangerous and destabilized world. And we all want to be precise. I'm a theologian by training. We all want to be precise on the theology. And I'm between you and Claire right now. But I always try to err on the side of the people that are going to cause dangers. Will this belief, is it somewhere in the front recesses of their brain that, if they have one of these things and they pop it off or send it to one of their proxies to pop off somewhere, you can start a bunch of crazy things and maybe the Mahdi will come back and the Mahdi will look at them and say, thank you because you got me back here. These are bizarre elements that are in the ethereal world, the existential world, but people follow principles like this. So what advice do you have for our leaders, particularly leaders in the Congress? I don't know if President Obama is going to listen to anybody, but on the Republican side of the ledger, what is your advice as an expert?
So I would say this. I would say that anybody that thinks Iran does not want a nuclear weapon is going to abide by an agreement is an utter fool. All right, because they want nuclear weapons, they will stop at nothing to get them. The only thing, however, I think that would stop them getting nuclear weapons would be a full-scale invasion. And we're not going to do that. This is a huge country. 3-4 times the population of Iraq. We are not going to invade Iran. That would just be insane. That said, I think that the GOP leaders might be better served by not taking recourse in this constant sort of drumbeat that I think, again, is inaccurate, that I think, frankly, that has bled over from the evangelical wing of the party into the political side. The idea that Iran wants to hotwire the apocalypse.
Okay.
Let's base our opposition to what Iran is doing on hardcore reality that I think better accurately reflects what Iran wants to do. And mind you, by saying that, as I said, it's an unsavory regime. I harbor no illusions about it. Iran, however, cannot conquer the Middle East because Iran is a Shia country and it's majority Sunni. The Sunnis are not going to put up that. At some point, the historic animosity between the Ottoman Empire, Turkey, the Neo-Ottoman Empire of Turkey, which was Sunni and fought for hundreds of years against the Safavid Empire of Iran, is going to remanifest. But I think that there are plenty of arguments that can be made against Iran getting a nuclear weapon without resorting to one that I think is blatantly untrue, which is the idea of hotwiring the apocalypse.
Okay, sounds good. Mark, you have a question for Dr. Furnish.
I'm kind of leaning, even though I hear what you're saying, I think their primary motivation, and tell me if we're correct or wrong or incorrect about this. Mark Langfan had the black gold triangle, which I'll put up on the map for our viewers, and it's basically the area where, the vast majority of the oil in the Middle East is located right in Western Iran, Eastern Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. And that area inside Saudi Arabia, inside that black triangle, is actually very Shia dominated, controlled. Do you think that is their primary reason to take over? Because they have 2/3, 2 out of 3 of those areas in control. Do you think they're after that third area?
I think they very possibly long-term are looking in terms of part of it at least. I mean, they're not going to invade Saudi Arabia because that would get us involved.
Right.
But what they're going through right now look, they don't need to invade Iraq. Iraq is a failed state. Okay, Iraq is devolving back to the three Ottoman vilayets it was, 100, 120 years ago, which was basically Mosul for the Kurds, Baghdad in the center for the Sunnis, and then Basra in the south for the Shia. So I think what you're going to have is the Iranians are counting on sort of a slow motion annexation of that part of Iraq, which will de facto give them, God knows how many more million barrels of oil. But I think, look, the Iranians, you've heard this adage, sometimes certain countries play some things, Americans play poker, Iranians play chess. You heard it with the Russians sometimes. Of course, under this administration, it's Americans play golf and Iranians play chess. But I think that the Iranians are looking at this in a long-term way such that they could get maybe not direct control, but a great deal of influence and eventually, hopefully, control of the majority Shia parts of the Middle East, especially the ones that border them. And yeah, you're exactly right. Hassa province of eastern Saudi Arabia is maybe not majority Shia, but it's large majority Shia, large minority Shia, I should say. So I think the Iranians, especially if you look at Iraq, the Shia parts of Iraq, are looking at that long-term being part of sort of the greater Iranian empire.
So do you see a threat of Iran having a nuclear bomb or not? Or what's your opinion on that? If they get the nuclear bomb, you don't think they're going to use it, so it's no problem if they have the nuclear bomb?
No, never said that.
Okay, I just want to be clear.
They will use it in ways that countries with nuclear weapons do as a life insurance sort of umbrella policy. And such that if they were to, do a slow motion annexation of that part of Iraq, that people would be, outside powers would be much more loath to try to stop them because the Iranians then would have a nuclear umbrella. We would get sort of the situation that we had in the Cold War. Why don't we do, or even now I should say, why don't we do more in the Ukraine? Because Russia has a hell of a lot of nuclear weapons, So that's what Iran, I think, is looking forward. It will definitely encourage Iranian adventurism. It will encourage Iranian support for terrorism, both Sunni and Shia. There's no doubt about that. Okay, that's what I'm saying, yes.
Okay. All right, Tim, we're running down to the end here. We're going to have you back because this is very interesting, fascinating stuff. What were you doing in Iran? You were there when?
August of 2008. It was before I had become a consultant in the military. I was in between being academic and being a book editor and writer for a while. So I had been to a conference in, believe it or not, the Islamic Center of England in London on this topic, a 12er Shia mosque, in fact, the largest 12er Shia mosque in London. And some Ayatollahs I'd talked to were nice. And then a couple of years later, they invited me to come to Iran. And there I am, about 20 pounds wider. Thank you. And not green.
Not green.
Yeah.
Not our fault, but I'll take it.
So I got invited. Yeah, there's this yearly conference that actually started on Ahmadinejad, but it's been kept up. It's called the annual, in Iranian, the Mahdaviyat, the Mahdi conference. And they bring folks from all over the world, Muslim, and they bring a few token non-Muslims to try to
David
spread
Duke.
propaganda. Yes, like me. But I figured, when am I going to get another free trip to Iran on the Ayatollah's dime? So I took it.
Oh, we want to hear about that. We're gonna have you back. We want to hear about that. And let's see that Skinny Tim again.
Oh yeah,
Tim
Skinny
Furnish.
Tim. There you go, Skinny Tim. There he is.
There he is.
Yeah. What happened to that guy?
Yeah. Is that your hotel door you were going in there?
That, Tom, is a copy, I wish. That's a copy of the Kiswa, which is the covering that goes over the Kaaba in Mecca. The Saudis had given that to the Iranians in an effort to kind of make peace back in the early 2000s.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah, after that failed attempt to take it over militarily.
Yeah, I'm sorry?
After that failed attempt to take it over militarily.
Right.
All right, Dr. Tim Furnish, we really appreciate you spending time with us today. Thank you for your insight. And look,
I'll give you one big green shot as a parting gift here.
Yeah. One big green shot. You take care.
Hey, now it came back.
All right, gentlemen, thank
green,
you.
Red, white, or green, we love you anyway, and have a good weekend. We'll see you in the near future, all right?
All right, thanks a lot.
You take care.
All right.
Dr. Tim Furnish, folks, he is veteran and served our country.
That's very
was an
interesting.
interrogator and all those kind of things.
Can you say waterboard?
Yeah, expert. No, he didn't say any of that. Very interesting. All right, that's our week right now. Apocalyptic Iran, 5 parts, and we're going to look next week, Monday, Tuesday, waiting for that final decision, conclusion to the negotiations. But everybody have a safe, wonderful weekend. Tom Trento and the boys saying goodbye. Take it easy.